Hi, you guys. It's Deirdre, Deirdre Fay, and I have to say there are times when I really believe in Mercury retrograde. I couldn't type. I couldn't get things going. I couldn't make it work. So, but I thought I'd talk today about how inspired I am about the simple ways we can change our life. And those people who are in the current Living Untriggered course got a post from me yesterday about exertion and how important exertion is, and that sounds like, I don't know, like a lot of word, like a big word, like a heavy word. And it kind of is, we need to exert ourselves if we want to move in a new direction. But one of the things that has struck me over and over through all the years of my own healing and transformation, but also in all the studies I've done, both in contemporary psychotherapy, but also in the ancient traditions, is that we need to be deliberate in how we orient ourselves and move ourselves forward. So I thought today I'd talk about the 5 strengths that we can cultivate and help ourselves on that path. So there definitely are 5. The first one I want to talk about is what's called strong determination. Now, I'm trying to get my notes in place so that I can actually have it when I want to speak to you about it. So, strong determination is that capacity that helps us make that switch from one thing to another. If you, like right now where you are even, like turn to your left, and in order to turn to our right or turn to any other side, we have to do something, right? Now, I can say, all right, I'm turning from here to here, no big deal. But when we're locked into a pattern, when we're stuck, that little shift is a lot. When our mind is racing, the little tiny shift we can take is a lot. Sometimes we feel like we can't. When we're so upset or depressed and we're in bed, the last thing it feels like we can do is get out of bed, right? To make that shift. So one of the things we want to cultivate is this sense of strong determination, this willingness to let life grow from inside, to let something else be different. And have it be different despite everything that says it can't be, it shouldn't be, it won't be, nothing good will ever come of it, all those kind of things, because it does happen that way. So it's like we take this tiny little seed of life that wants to grow, this light that wants to shine, and we begin to make sure that it has enough protection around it so that it can grow and flourish, so that that small light can actually become a flame and let it grow. And have you ever been at some of the big, I don't know, I guess they're cemeteries, the big cemeteries where they have an eternal flame. They have a flame that flows through everything, is able to be alive no matter what. In the Olympics, when we bring the torch in, that's what we're carrying, this eternal flame. That's what we're wanting to cultivate inside ourselves, that capacity for this ability to grow something and have it be eternal. That's what we're going to use to help grow from within and illuminate the path on the outside. So I can't stress this one enough. Having that strong determination is what's going to help in so many different ways, but certainly if we're wanting to change a pattern, because these patterns are so deep. Let's take another analogy. When I lived in the Southwest, what I would see is you drive and drive and it looked flat. But then you'd come across this arroyo that was deep, like the Grand Canyon, right? Everything is down below, but from up top, you don't see it. It looks like a flat surface. Now, what this is that The river or the water has followed this path and followed this path for eons, and it's carved a pathway deeper and deeper and deeper into the ground. That's what we're trying to achieve with strong determination, is to grow that deeply inside of ourselves. Now think about this. When we want to change the pattern, or let's say we're rowing down white water rafting at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, it takes a lot to be able to shift and go somewhere else, right? It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of exertion. What we're trying to do is be able to pull ourselves back from continuing to create that same pathway so that a new pathway can form. And that takes a determination. I want to go here, right? Instead of going down what's already so well trodden in my life. And think of all the times that we've done the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And we know the outcome, but we want something different. We just haven't learned how to. For strong determination is going to be essential. So let me think here. I had put some other notes. Well, that's I think key for that, about that piece of strong determination. Another one of the 5 qualities that we can really practice and develop is this idea of familiarization, knowing the pathway, knowing it so well that we can shift gears, or that either that we can say, okay, here's where I'm going to get triggered. This is what's going to throw me off. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I see that it's going to happen. I see that's what is about to happen, but I'm not going to do that. It's also what happens when we immerse ourselves so much in a good thing. Like if I begin to let my body know a wonderful quality and that I want that wonderful quality, and let myself just immerse myself in that wonderful quality, then I know it and I can remember it later times. That pattern becomes deeply familiar to me, and it becomes known to me, and I want it, and I know how to return to it. Now we also see this with our stuck patterns, as the stuck patterns become so familiar that we end up hanging out with them at times when we don't want to. So the question really is, what do you want to cultivate? What do you want to become more familiar with? So that's the second one. The third one that we could practice, and this can be hard because it's about yearning. And yearning has a lot of misconceptions. It's yearning in our world, in this Western world, has this idea of yearning for something kind of unattainable, like unrequited love kind of a thing. But if we begin to look at yearning as longing, this capacity to let our body hold and be with this longing for something new and different, then we have some access road. We have a way to shift. As we train our body, mind, and heart to sit inside our own skin and fill up with whatever it is that's coming up that we want, and our body becomes familiar with it inside of us, it becomes easier then to become familiar with it on the outside, right? We don't have to be frightened of it, but we do have to learn how to hold it and be with it, and not just tolerate it, because that sounds kind of like we're just waiting to get it done, but to be with it so that it can actually move and help us grow. So that piece of yearning or longing can be really important, to reframe it away from something that we can never have to something that is like, oh yes, of course, it's already here. It's a natural native state, and let that grow and develop. Then the other piece that we need to really develop in ourselves is this capacity to coach ourselves, because there are going to be times when we don't have people around who are going to help us make the choices that are right for us, or we're not going to have a therapist or another coach out there. We need to be able to build that inside of ourselves. And that kind of coaching is being able to notice when we're a little off course and gently guide us back to being on course. It's also can be, I think of it as a gentle chiding of the heart to say, hey, don't do that. Do what you really want. Wait for the best outcome. Wait for it to come true, right? We want the connection within ourselves and without us, and we want to be aligned with our purpose, right? So how do we coach ourselves to get there? We remind ourselves what we want and, more importantly, who we want to be given the circumstances and the situation. And that can be really hard because we get tripped up. Many of you have heard me talk so much about the developmental task of the adult versus the child. We get tripped up because we still want it to come from out there. We want it to come from out there. So we have a different experience in here. And the developmental task of the adult, and certainly the spiritual path, the psychospiritual path, is how do we have it inside here, that felt experience, something that we're familiar with. So we're so familiar with it in here that it is also there outside. So there's one more piece I wanted to bring up, which is this idea of knowing inside. I call it sealing the imprint. I was recently in Europe and I saw one of the old stamps, and certainly when I've traveled all over all the years, when I was training in India, they used a lot of stamps on everything. Much anymore, but in the ancient times, in the ancient traditions, how they take that piece of wax and they put a stamp on it, and that would be a sign of, authenticating it. Similar what we want to do inside of ourselves. When we have a good experience, how can I be so familiar with it and so aware of it and so loving of it and let that grow my longing and yearning for more? Can I just have more of that inside? And also seal the imprint. Because we are, if many of you have heard me talk about this, we are constantly being imprinted from life, good and bad. And we want to be able to choose the imprints that we have to be the consciousness that can have what we want to be imprinted by. So if I have a good experience and I want to replicate that and I want to become more familiar with it, and I want to coach myself to remember it, it's really important to take that little morsel, that little tiny morsel in, and bring it into my body as much as I can, and then seal the imprint. This is what I want. We take it in on a somatic level, we take it in on a psychological level, we take it in on an emotional level, and we seal it. This is what I want, right? So I came up with this practice, which is, as you go through the day, what do you want to become more familiar with? What new normal would you like to build and create and cultivate inside of you? And can you feel your heart's longing for that? And let it slowly fill you. Not so you're scared, but that you can open yourself to it. And will you commit yourself to guiding yourself, coaching yourself back to where you want to go, instead of where the old patterns are dragging you into, right? And then how can you enjoy? Let your body be imprinted with what feels good and right, and seal that inside. This is mine. That's what I was thinking of for some homework. Now, Jenny has a question here, and I have to put my glasses on to read. You're saying, I've been working so hard with this, but it's really hard to keep the determination alive when you're alone. It's hard to believe that that can come from within all the time. And I totally understand, Jenny. I totally understand. It is hard. That's why I lived in community for so many years. So I lived in the spiritual community, because I was surrounded by people that were working in the same way. That makes a big difference. It's why I have the Safely Embodied Learning community, which you're welcome to join. Everybody's welcome to join. It's a community of people dedicated to practicing the same things and growing this inside. So there's that, all the courses that I do, people can find community in 12-step programs at churches, but we can't, it's, I didn't do it alone. I had lots of mentors and teachers. I've been on this path a long time. So along the way, I knew I needed support and assistance and mentoring and guidance. And I went out of my way and I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on it because it was that important to me. But Jenny, listen to all my Facebook pages, all the YouTube videos I'm doing. I try to do them every week. Sometimes I try to do them more. Sometimes I don't. If I'm traveling, I'm not able to. But absolutely, this is one way that I am committed to helping people, because I know the path is hard, and it's certainly been hard for me on occasion. And what makes it easier, are the power of the teachings that make it easier, but also being connected with other people. So I hope this helps. Let me know, and let's all stay in connection around it. Sarah's saying, I've gotten triggered in a work meeting 3 times. Do you have any suggestions on how to deal with a trigger at work? PTSD. Oh, bless your heart, Sarah. Yes. The main thing you can do is slow down. If you're triggered at work or anywhere, really, is don't react. And the impulse is going to come. It's going to take over. It's going to feel like it hijacks us. But really what's important is don't react. That triggered response is that old pattern trying to drag us down the path in the same old way, and we want to find a new way. And that new way means we harness that energy that's trying to discharge into a reaction. Slow it down and breathe and breathe and breathe and make room inside, make room inside. Let everything rise, crest and fall, so that it can begin over time to find a new way. We have the Living Untriggered course, might have been a really good. We just closed it, but I think we could still open it if you wanted to. But that would be one way to get support, and also to learn some practices for sure. That I teach a lot there. Gwen is saying, I would have to say people should be careful with who they choose to support them. That can be really true too, Gwen. It's a really good point. You have to choose people who you trust have your best interests in heart and who know the path a little bit. People will say all kinds of things, and you need to also be able to stay inside yourself, be attuned to yourself, and recognize, is it true for you? Does this work for you? Is this the path you want to follow? And be able to be aware of that. So that's a really good point, Gwen. So my dears, Sarah, I'm glad that helped. Yeah, good. So glad. And next week, Wednesday, I think I'm traveling actually next week, Wednesday. So maybe I'll do one later in the day on Wednesday. Or Monday. And then Wednesday, the following week is the day before Thanksgiving. Those of you who aren't in the US, we have a big Thanksgiving holiday that Thursday, but I'll be here on Wednesday, and I'll definitely post something then. All right, my dears, lots of love and blessings to you.